to cease and abstain from evil, complete restraints from intoxicants, to be diligent in virtuous practices. This is a blessing supreme. Okay, friends. So this one is all about sila. Right? This one is about the 5 precepts to cease, well, or more. Everything is not just covered. Sila is not just the 5 precepts. Sila is much more than that, because there's much more, there's many more actions in the world that can be unskillful outside of just the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts are just the basics. But to cease and abstain from evil, right? And you have here complete restraint from intoxicants. Right? This is, the Mangala Sutta is pretty early. And so you see, like, you know, in some places, people will read in the suttas and will say, well, you know, the Buddha talks about these, like, there's no, like, restraint from intoxicants in, like, right action. You know, like, you say, where's restraint from intoxicants? Well, you know, there's different places where this comes in, and MahaMangala Sutta is one of them. And of course, you know, for monastics, there's the rule, no drinking, no alcohol. But, you know, and now in the 5 precepts, it's the same thing, right? But restraining from things that will cause you to lose your mindfulness. Be diligent in virtuous practices. So being diligent in living virtuously, right? That's what sila means. Sila is virtuous principles, right? People say sila means rules. Sila means commandments. No, not really. Because we have to always remember, when we do the precepts, Panatipata Vedamani Sikapadang Samadhyami. Sikapadang Samadhyami is the important thing here. A training rule to be observed. Right? This is one of my favorite things that Bhante Ji ever said in a retreat was, he says, what's the difference between a oh boy, it's been a while since I said this. What's the difference between a rule and, not a precept? Oh boy, I can't believe I forgot it. It's been too long. You know, it's been so long since I've been really doing a lot of teaching that I'm rusty in things. What's the difference between a rule? I guess you could say rule and a precept, right? A rule is something that is, a principle, right? Or virtuous principle. So a rule is something that is imposed upon you from the outside, right? The government or religion or whatever, they impose something upon you that you're supposed to follow, right? Principle is something that you take on yourself. You choose to live in such a way, right? And that's what virtuous principles are supposed to be. Virtuous principles are supposed to be not something that's forced upon you, right? Not something that you feel like, oh, I have to do this. No, it's something that you want to do, that you actively trying to do because of your own intention, your own volition. All right, so keep that in mind. Like, even like, you know, for me, like with the monks' rules, like I learned from early on that if my mind is like, oh, I don't want to follow these monks' rules, and I say, well, you can quit at any time. It's like, yeah, like basically reminding my mind, like, you wanted to do this, and you can really quit at any time. You don't have to stay here, right? Like, nobody's forcing you to stay here. And interestingly enough, when I do that, my mind's like, oh yeah, I'm okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep trying this, you know, at least for a little while longer, right? So it's like, it's interesting how it's almost, really, it's human psychology. It's like if you work with children enough, it's kind of the same way. Like if you tell children, like, don't do this, it's the first thing they're going to do once you're out of sight, right? So it's like giving that out to your mind. It's like, yeah, you know, it's like, I don't have to follow the precepts, you know, but I choose to. It's like, you know, your friends, you know, whatever you want to go, everybody's going out to partying, like New Year's is coming up. Oh, and it's like, oh, it's going to kind of be awkward, not drinking and such and such. And you say, well, I don't have to not drink, but I'm choosing to not drink. I'm trying to live by virtuous principles, right? So if you do that, it's interesting. Watch the mind in that regard. The mind will usually be like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Let's continue on. Right? So not only, again, this is a blessing supreme. So not only is this a blessing to be living by virtuous principles, so much weight off your mind, right? So much less restlessness and remorse, right? That's a blessing. Just to believe, oh man, like when I've always been a bit of a goody two shoes. So I haven't, the bad that I've done in my life is pretty minor compared to many of the people like I worked with and things like that when I did child protective services and things like that, right? And I saw, how much it makes people suffer, right? A lot of them, they were born into suffering. They were born into some pretty bad situations, and it continues, right? Because like that, those old habits which they feel stuck in, right? And they don't know a way out, right? And so it just keeps continuing to suffer, to suffer, to suffer. And you just watch how it's just a brutal thing. So like you're just so happy that that's not something that you have to deal with, right? Because your mind is much more clear, much more at peace, right? And so like that's a blessing, right? That is an absolute blessing. And so this is why the Buddha, I love the four kinds of persons, right? There's the person who is born in the light and is heading towards darkness. There's a person who's born in the light heading towards light. Person born in the dark, heading towards light. Person born in the dark, heading towards darkness. Right? And it's a simple one. It's the person who's born in the dark, heading towards the dark. It's somebody who's born poor, malformed in body, sickly, ugly, all these kind of things, right? And so the Buddha is saying here, yes, you were born, because of past karma, you were born in a pretty rough situation in this life. But you still have the choice. Are you heading towards light? No matter how much of a struggle, no matter how little bit by little bit, are you heading towards light? Meaning living by virtuous principles, right? Trying to act skillfully in the world. Or are you heading towards darkness, which is continuing to act unskillfully, harmful to yourself and others? And it's the same thing. Somebody who's born in the light, born very rich, beautiful, handsome, very healthy, like everybody in my family lived to like 99 years old and all these kind of things. And again, you have a choice. Are you going to squander that and live unskillfully and unwholesomely and harmfully? Or are you going to live skillfully, live mindfully, live generously, right? So no matter which way you're born, the Buddha tells us we have a choice, right? We can live skillfully. We can act skillfully. We can live by virtuous principles and be diligent in them, and we can enjoy the blessings that come from them. All right, friends. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful day. Dhammapalooza tonight at 8 p.m. So we have 11 and a half hours till Dhammapalooza. Hope to see you on. And until next time, friends, have a good day.